Cillian Murphy's upper lip back here with another video. Thank you to everybody who watched my last video on the 1984 classic The Karate Kid. If you haven't seen it, you're probably not cool enough, let alone being able to handle it. So, with the fast approaching release of the highly anticipated 28 years later, a sequel to the 2002 Danny Boyle horror cult classic zombie flick 28 Days Later, I've decided to dive into this masterpiece in low budget horror filmmaking. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, or as usual, I'll kill the family dog. If you have never seen this amazing movie, it starts the same way as The Walking Dead, so don't worry. A man called Jim, played by the now Oscar winner Cillian Murphy, who wakes up from a coma 28 days after a zombie outbreak, confused, alone, walking the empty streets of London. Okay, now what I'm about to say comes from a total narrative point of view rather than a production one, but there is zero blood, zero bodies, army gear, cars, damage, debris, anything really that shows signs of a horrific either evacuation or massacre. Clearly it's movie magic how they managed to get one of the busiest cities in the world as empty as they have done. It's incredible, you know, the isolation of the character, but throughout the movie, it just kind of took me out of it a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely iconic Cillian Murphy walking around London in his hospital gown with his little bag, doing his little thing, but for the rest of the movie, it just kind of took it out of me, you know, seeing the empty sort of motorways, and you don't really see, again, total budgetary sort of thing. From a narrative point of view, you know, it does. It feels like a bit of a more bad dream than anything. Jim finally comes across two survivors, Selena and Mark. They help him escape from a group of sprinting undead through the streets, throwing Molotovs, doing their thing. They blow up a petrol station and take refuge in a store. Here is when it gets crazy. They explain the entire situation to Jim, who naturally completely loses his mind and wants to go see his parents. So the group travel to Jim's parents' house, where he finds his parents dead on their bed holding a picture of him as a child. How sad. Time to grow up, pussy. The group are attacked by Jim's parents' zombified neighbours, and Mark gets infected, so Selena, without hesitation, attacks her fellow friend and survivor to pieces with a machete in front of a very confused and very silently scared Jim. But hey, gotta do what you gotta do. Of course, this is only the beginning, so they end up going on a journey, just Jim and Selena, two and two, buddy and buddy. They carry on their journey through lonely, lonely London until Jim spots a flickering light come from a nearby flat. The pair then arrive and they are greeted with Frank, the cab driver, and his daughter Hannah, quickly becoming a pretty cool foursome. Oi oi, making the plan to follow a mysterious military radio signal just north of Manchester. Now this is where I'm like, what? As I mentioned earlier, the roads are completely clear. There isn't a car in sight. But Frank tells the group that it's going to take 2 to 3 days to make it up there because of the condition of the road. But they show the motorways and it's completely clear. Like that road, that is a 5-hour drive with traffic, alright? Let alone completely empty fucking roads going, what, 100 miles an hour? There's no speed cameras. There's no fucking coppers getting you. You know what I mean? You're just fucking beelining it down. They probably get it there in about 2 hours. Unfortunately, they burst a tire in a tunnel, and Hannah has to make some pretty cool pit stops. Luigi Linguini, whatever the fuck his name from Cars is. She gotta remove that tire while everyone lifts the car because there's zombies coming around the corner, and I love it. With no budget, the editing, the performances, that's what really sells the danger and tension in this. The effect of the shadows of the zombies coming around the corner, but you don't really see them, but you feel the numbers. Narrowly avoiding death in the tunnel and making it to one of the only checkpoints in the whole country, as it seems just happens to be outside of Manchester, the group stop and check it out and look for the military. But as all hope seems lost when the site seems abandoned, Frank goes off in a bit of a mood and is looking up at a crow eating a zombified corpse when, oh, and of course a small drop of blood goes straight in his eye and infects Frank. Of course, I never actually mentioned the beginning of the movie. So at the beginning of the movie, we see a group of animal activists breaking into a highly top secret experimental research facility working on monkeys. They just assume it's something a little less dangerous than it is. Despite what a researcher that they have hostage says, they let one of the monkeys out and he begins attacking. There's a blood massacre, everybody in the room dies, and we're led to believe that that is the reason for the outbreak. It transmits through blood extremely fast, and apparently you only need a tiny bit of blood on you, especially for when the plot requires you to get a little bit of blood on you. This is what I don't get. They even throw in a line where Jim's like, why am I not infected when you hacked your mate apart after he got bit? But apparently maybe he wasn't actually infected in the first place. Anyway, Cillian Murphy kills a kid, no remorse, just absolutely smashes his head in with a baseball bat. Right, where was I? Anyway, Mad Eye Moody just got infected and now the army pop out of nowhere, spray him down with like a dozen bullets, only for Hannah to give the perfect reaction, deserving a place next to the scene in Team America where that woman guns down a room full of terrorists, only to go, Gary? Jim, Selena and Hannah are taken by the army boys to a huge manor house, which they have turned into a base of operations run by Major Henry West, played by my favourite He's not my favourite. He's my third favourite. By accident, he said it, so I'm going to run with it. Doctor Who, Christopher Eccleston. Long story short, they wanted to turn Selena and Hannah into sex slaves and have them repopulate the planet. But Jim isn't a complete cunt, so he immediately tries to get them out, but fails after getting hit in the face with a gun and ends up at the wrong end of a barrel in the middle of the woods. About to be executed, Jim manages to outsmart the two dumb army men and make it back to the checkpoint using an alarm to draw as many soldiers away from the house as possible. Really channeling in his John Rambo from First Blood at this point. Selena is trying to give Hannah drugs so she doesn't feel anything while being gang raped. This movie is fucking sick. Managing to set a zombie free in the house, Jim is just causing fucking chaos, but the virus rapidly spreads through, leaving everyone separated, getting picked off one by one. The trio, they manage to make it outside to the cab, but guess who's inside? The bloody Dark Elf from Thor 2 waiting for them, shoots Jim in the stomach. Hannah manages to do some fast and furious driving, leading to a hilarious and well-deserved death for Christopher Eccleston at the hands of some bloodthirsty zombies. They escape and we get another 28-day gap. This time they're in a beautiful remote cottage and they're trying to signal a military plane with a bunch of fabric and material that Selena's been crafting, because, spoiler alert, it's only England that's infected, well, for now. But that's right, it took 28 days for a group of men to round up some sex slaves for breeding. That's right, it took 27 days, too long if you ask me. Anyway, 28 days later came out on November 1st, 2002 and did not arrive into the US until the 27th of June the following year. That is crazy how films do that sometimes. It was directed by Danny Boyle, who's easily one of the most successful and entertaining directors from the last 30 years, directing such hits as Shallow Grave, Trainspotting, its sequel, Slumdog Millionaire, and the movie Sunshine, again with Cillian Murphy. 28 Days Later was written by Alex Garland, whom you might recognise from recent cinema, being the director of both Civil War and the brutally realistic Warfare earlier this year. With a budget of $8 million, it made a staggering $84.6 million, which is totally understandable why a sequel was greenlit and released a few years later. Unfortunately, without Boyle directing, you can really tell, losing its gritty, Britty charm that he's known and loved for. That's it. Well done. We did it again somehow. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. That's the end of the video. You're not getting any more. You want any more? You want a little bit less? Maybe let me know if you want a little bit less. These are kind of tiring on top of 40 hours a week. Anyway, thank you very much. Goodbye.